Dealing with difficult people can be a draining and frustrating experience, as I found out firsthand with my previous boss, Tom. From the moment I started working under him, I felt like I was constantly being pushed to work harder, do more, and be better. His constant criticism and high expectations became overwhelming, and it felt like a burden to me instead of a help. I remember one instance where I had been working on a project for weeks and had put in extra hours to meet a deadline. I had worked overtime 3 days in a row and sacrificed my personal time to make sure everything was perfect. But when I presented my work to Tom, he found ways to nitpick and point out everything that was wrong with it. He criticized my methods, my approach, and even my work ethics. It was disheartening and draining. No matter how hard I tried, it was never good enough for him. It was hard for me to focus on my work, knowing that my boss was never satisfied with my performance. I felt like I was always walking on eggshells, trying to avoid his criticism. I started to lose my confidence and my motivation. I was stuck in a never-ending cycle of criticism and disappointment at work. I eventually realized that working under Tom was taking a toll on my mental and emotional well-being. I knew I had to do something to break this cycle. One day, Tom called me into his office to give me yet another lecture about my performance. I had had enough. I couldn't take it anymore. I knew that something had to change. As time went on, there was a gradual buildup of tension between us. He kept pushing me to work harder and be better, but his constant criticism and high expectations made me feel more and more resentful. I was exhausted from trying to please him, but I didn't know how to stand up for myself. One day, Tom summoned me to his office with a sense of urgency. I knew what was coming and braced myself for another lecture about my performance. He had been increasingly critical of my work in recent weeks, and I had grown tired of his constant demands for perfection. I couldn't take it anymore, and as I sat across from him, I knew that something had to change. Tom began by pointing out my shortcomings, listing off my mistakes with precision. He had always been demanding, but this felt different. His tone was harsher than usual, and I could see the disappointment etched on his face. I listened patiently, trying to keep my frustration in check. As the meeting went on, I couldn't help but feel resentful. He kept pushing me to work harder and be better, but his constant criticism and high expectations were taking a toll on me. I was exhausted from trying to please him, but I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I felt trapped in a cycle of never-ending criticism, and I knew that something had to change. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the meeting came to an end. Tom dismissed me with a stern warning to improve my performance or face the consequences. I left his office feeling deflated and defeated, knowing that I couldn't continue to put up with his constant criticism. I knew that I needed to find a way to stand up for myself and put an end to this cycle of never-ending pressure. So I scheduled a meeting with Tom, feeling anxious but determined to address the issue at hand. I knew that his constant criticism had been demotivating and unproductive, and I had had enough. As we sat down in the conference room, I took a deep breath and began. I calmly but firmly told him that his behavior had been impacting me negatively. I shared specific instances of how his criticism had made me feel like my personal life was not respected and how my work was not valued. I could see the surprise in his eyes, but I pressed on. I suggested that we find a way to work together to set realistic expectations and goals, and to find ways to improve my performance that were both constructive and positive. At first, he denied any wrongdoing and tried to defend himself, but I had come prepared with examples and evidence of his behavior. I stood my ground and spoke my truth, refusing to back down. To my surprise, he listened attentively and acknowledged the impact of his actions on me. We spent the rest of the meeting discussing ways to work together more effectively, and I left the meeting feeling heard and empowered. True to his word, Tom kept his promise and started to give me constructive feedback. He would point out the things I did well and areas that I needed to improve. I learned that difficult people can be a gift in disguise, as they push you to become a better version of yourself. My experience with Tom taught me to address difficult situations head-on and not give up. I emerged from the experience stronger, more resilient, and with a newfound sense of self-worth. The payoff was a positive one, as I not only improved my work performance but also learned valuable lessons that I can apply to other areas of my life. Dealing with difficult people can be a challenging task. It requires a combination of effective communication, emotional intelligence, and the ability to address underlying causes of difficult behavior. Effective communication is key when dealing with difficult people. Active listening and assertive communication can help you understand the other person's perspective and express your own needs and boundaries in a clear and respectful manner. It's important to focus on the present situation, avoid personal attacks and criticism, and instead express your own feelings and needs. By focusing on effective communication, emotional intelligence, and addressing underlying causes, you can successfully deal with difficult people. In order to truly master the art of dealing with difficult people, it's crucial to understand the power of emotional intelligence. By developing emotional intelligence, you'll be able to better understand and manage your own emotions, as well as the emotions of those around you. Be sure to watch this video next as we'll dive deeper into the importance of emotional intelligence and how it can help you navigate difficult situations with ease.